This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, miniatures, and paints, discount prices at miniaturemarket.com.
Hey guys, I'm Steph, and today I am taking over Rob's channel with Takeover Tuesdays with me, Steph. And today I wanted to talk about 5-player games. I always find that I'm like at an odd player count and I need like 5 or 6 player games. If I have 6 players, I generally suggest I would just break 3-3, but there are some good 6-player games, and maybe I'll do a 6-player game list later. But today I wanted to focus on 5-player games. I recently was like, I have no games that I can play with 5 players, but that's totally not true. I wrote down every game in my collection that I have that will take 5 players, and then I created a list of 10 games that I thought, you know, these are the 10 games that I'm going to suggest playing before anything else when I have 5 players. And I narrowed it down to 20 games. I'm like, maybe I should do a top 20. But I ended up going with the 10, and here we go. My number 10, if I have 5 players, is Skull King. I love card games. You'll probably see a few other card games on this list, but I really like Skull King. This game has grown on me a whole lot since I have played it for the first time. My first experience with it wasn't the greatest because it was really late and it went on forever. But since then, I have come to love this game. It plays really well with many people because the more players that you have, the harder it is to do well. Because every hand you're trying to bid some number that of tricks that you're going to take, and you play out the round of each hand of cards. And in round 1 you have 1 card, round 2 you have 2 cards, all the way up to round 10 where you have 10 cards. And it gets so crazy with 10 cards because you're like, well, these should be winners, but then more people are likely to have pirates, which will alter what you take and what you don't take. There's so much control going around the table and who plays what and at what time you're playing something that it makes it just so much fun, and you never know what's going to happen. It's easy to pick up and play. It's a perfect game to play with 5 players, and I love it. It's a small card box game that can come with me wherever I go. I even played it with family and friends and just casual. It suits so many different situations, and I love it. So speaking of other card games, I am choosing to put Die Steven Seagal on my list. It's number 9. Now, this game is not really called Die Steven Seagal. It's called Die Steven Seagal or whatever. It sounds like Steven Seagal. And some of my friends have like little like Steven Seagal standees and quotes and all these things that make it fun. But it's been re-implemented as a title called Slough Off, which might be more familiar to some people. But I just go with the original game, Die Steven Seagal. And in this game, you play 5 rounds, so it works best with 5 players, so everybody can be start player one time. And you look at your hand of cards, and then you have to say, all right, I'm going to collect 3 red tricks and 2 yellow tricks, so I take these tokens. And if I don't collect what I think I'm going to do, well, I'm going to lose points, so I want to get rid of all the tokens that I take at the beginning of the round. And it's just high stress. There is a trump that's red. There's different ways to get rid of your tokens, but that's primarily it. And you really, it's really difficult, and it always has tons of laughs because, like, really? That happened? How did you do that? What? Oh, I just love card games, and that just totally works for me. My number 8 is probably many people's go-to for a higher player count. It is Scythe. Now, everybody really seems to like Scythe, I think. It's highly rated on BGG. There's so much to enjoy. Like, it works really well with more players, too, because there's different people on the board coming in from all areas. So you really want to focus in and do more. And it's really a well-balanced game because everybody sitting next to you is always set up the same way, but the blue might be introverted and the white might be extroverted. So everybody everybody's playing differently, and it works really well at a high player count, and I really enjoy that. It's been a long time since I played it, and it's one that I need to get played soon. Oh, it's almost been like a year. That's not okay. I gotta rectify that right away. So I have a lot of, I don't know, what do you want to call them? Classics, older titles on my list that I kind of was introduced into, when I first started gaming, and they've held strong. So the next few are, pretty classic, if you will. My number 7 is Through the Desert. Now, besides the awesome little camels that you have in this game, the actual gameplay is very strategic and really fun. I just love having to, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this, but you only get to place 2 camels every round. And so you're trying to make enclosures, but you're embracing other people, and you're trying to make big clumps of different camel groups to try and get the bonus points for that. You're trying to make it to the trees to get bonus points for that. There's so many different things that you're trying to do, but you can only do 2 moves every turn. And so what's most beneficial for you this turn might not be what you want to end up doing 3 turns from now. You should have worked towards that instead. But so it's a big push and pull, like, do I do this now or do I do it later? The game might end. Who knows what's going to happen? And I love it. It's so great. And it works great with 5 or fewer. But I usually end up playing it with 5, which is funny. Just because I think about it and I love it. My number 6 is another classic, which probably many people haven't really heard of. It's called Timbuktu. Now, Timbuktu also has camels, because it's a theme, I guess. And it's really a game that a couple of my friends call it math homework, because there's a lot of math involved. And by math I mean, or camel homework, because there's just so much that you have to think about and remember, and there's critical thinking, like, what did I see, what did I see? It's part memory, okay? So you see some cards, eventually you'll pass those cards to the next player, and then you'll see the next group of cards, and you pass those, and then, so you're learning these different combinations of cards, which will tell you where you want to place your camels in the next segment of the board. So every turn you're going to be playing a camel, A, B, C, D, or E, and you'll move that camel either up a space or down a space into the next column onto the next board. And these cards will tell you the bad spaces in specific areas. So maybe in column C, you don't want to be in spot 2, so you definitely don't want to put your camel in that spot. So you don't want to move that camel right now, because that's where it's going to look like it's headed. There's a lot of thinking, and you don't want to get screwed over and lose your goods, because all these camels are holding different goods that you're trying to protect. And once you make it through the 5 rounds to the end, you evaluate how much goods you have successfully brought to the end, and you'll get points depending on, it's actually funny, it's depending on how many of those goods have been lost by players at this game. So if I lose all my salt, that means the person holding a whole bunch of salt on the other table is probably going to get a whole bunch of points. So if you can make it to the end with all that salt, you'll get more points, that kind of thing. But the more salt that's lost, the more valuable salt is. So, oh man, it's a really cool game, and it's probably not one many people know, but I think it's a perfect 5-player game, and it's tons of fun. My number 5 game is Show Manager. Now, this also plays with 6 really well. It is an auction game. You have an available pool of cards that you're drafting to your hand, and eventually you have to play these cards in a set. Now you're trying to put on these different shows with the sets that you're collecting, so if you have an actor that's professional and has the best role for red and gets 9 points, then you want to give her that role. Some actors are diverse and will give you different opportunities for different shows and left fewer points, but the more points you can get for your shows that you put on, the better off you are in the end result. And you're just trying to put on the best 4 shows you can in the game. But all the good cards go fast, and you can spend your money fast to try and get those good cards, but once you run out of money, you have to, like, put your show on, debt, and you take some money, and then that show is now less valuable. So money is super tight. You want to take the best options you can get at the time you can get it. Number 4. Oh, I love this game. it probably should be higher because I love it so much, but it also plays wonderful with 6 and would probably be my number 1 6-player game. It's Medici. I love Medici, and I think I've owned about all of the editions of Medici at one point, and I ended up staying with the French edition because I think it is probably the prettiest edition. Every edition has its flaws, but anyway, it is a auction game where you're filling up your boats with goods, and whoever the active player is will get to reveal 1 to 3 cards one at a time, and they can stop or send it around. It is a once around bid, and the final player can, take that one higher and take that goods that they put out, or they can sell it to the other person and say, you take that, I don't need that. And then that person, whatever they bid, will have to pay in points, the cost that they bid. So if you really want something, you bid higher, but you are losing points. What you're bidding is your points. So don't bid crazy because you won't win. I love auction games, and this is probably the best of them all. This is my favorite. Coming in at number 3 is Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders is a top 5 game for me at all time, and I love Seven Wonders. I will always play with whoever wants to play at any time. It is a game that I simply love. I think it works wonderful at 5 players, and I've played it on Bretschville Veld with 5 players a whole lot, so I know the 5-player count cards actually very well, surprisingly. So I know what cards to expect in a 5-player game. But I think Seven Wonders will work really with, any number of players, and I love it. It's simple, fun, drafting, so good. Top 5. My number 2 is a game that is pretty recent, 2018, History of the World, the reprint, the re-updated one. It is a game where you're conquering the board with different nations, and you're trying to, maintain those areas. Now, once you're done for your turn, they're all in decline, and there's nothing you can do, just hope for the best. But it's a simple mechanical thing where it works like Small World in a way. But you immediately go into decline after your turn every round, and there's 5 rounds, and you're going to draft nations and powers every round, and there's something about it that it just makes me want to play it all the time, and it works for 4 or 5 players. I'm not sure I'd want to play with 6. It might be a little too long because there can be some downtime involved, but there's something so interesting about this game, and the more I play it, the more I love it, and playing it with 5 is perfectly wonderful. I love it. And now for my favorite 5-player game. Woo! I love and will always request, basically any time I have 5 players, is Turn the Tide. It is a card game. Everybody gets to play everybody's hand once. It's 5 rounds, so the cards that I have for the first round, everybody will have these cards. So going to the next player, and then you have to work with what you've got. And as you come and play more cards, you will see where the different high cards are, the different low cards are. What you're doing with these cards are bidding for the 2 cards in the middle. And by bidding, I mean trying to either avoid or trying to bid the highest. Because if you flip up a 12 and a 1, you do not want that 12. You might want the 1 though. So these cards will be used every round. Whoever throws out the highest card will get first pick at the 2 cards in the middle. And now these cards will stay with you. And whoever is the highest one of these cards at the end of the round will lose a life preserver. And so if you lose all your life preservers and 1 more, then you bust and you're out for the round. You can't get points. You actually get a negative point. So you want to try and stay alive. And so you either, with a 12 and a 1 situation, those are the extremes. So the 1 is the best, the 12 is the worst. If you play a 50 and somebody else plays a 49, well, that 50 will take the 1, the 49 will get stuck with that 12. And it's all about manipulating your hands to work for you. So maybe you just want to avoid the situation and play a 1 card if you have that in your hand. If you're playing a 1, you're definitely not taking that. Because with 5 players, 2 people are collecting these. And so if you have that 12, you definitely want to try and get the next low number to cover the 12, because otherwise you'll keep losing your preservers by being the highest 12. So it's a hand manipulation situation, and it is a perfect 5-player game. There is no other 5-player game that is just so perfect. And I love it. Turn the Tide, Land Under, Zoom Cook Cook. It's been a lot of different names, so you just gotta play it. If you like card games, I mentioned 3 on this list, and I simply love them. Well, so that was my take for top 10 5-player games. Maybe I should do an 11 through 20, because I still have a whole bunch more that I would love to play too. But, for now, I've been Steph. Thanks for watching.